So throughout this module, we have had 6 classes in total. We started with an introduction in which we identified what writing means for visual journalism. We have seen different writing practices which are currently in use in terms of writing for visual journalism. Then we have identified how texts can create a greater impact for visuals and how it can strengthen the impact of visual itself, and how we can combine both to achieve a desired audience response. In the second class, we talked about different methods and practices of writing for visual journalism, in which we identified different writing styles, mainly 4 different writing styles, which included expository, descriptive, narrative, and persuasive. And we have already had done the practice where we tried to incorporate these styles into our own writing and also try to generate our own piece of writing which is going to accompany a visual in this respect. And then in the third class, we talked about writing for pictures, how to generate captions, how to write photo descriptions, what elements we need to include in captions or photo descriptions. That's what we have discussed in the third class. We have learned about adding new information in the captions whenever we are trying to write for pictures. We have learned about using conversational language when we are trying to write a description or a caption. And we also have identified how we can improve our photo stories. And we have also done an exercise where we have tried to do a practice by ourselves. In the fourth class, we have talked about newsmaking and writing scripts, in which we have identified different forms of scripts and also learned about different elements of scripts. We have learned about the formatting. In this case, we identified time section where we kept the time. We identified visual section and audio sections, and how combining these 3 in columns, how we can generate a general formatting of a script, let's say. And then as an exercise, we have tried to create a script of an existing video, which was in this case of a video of this girl called Tasmina, a horse rider from Naga, which was documented by Prothom Alo. We have watched that video, and we have, as an exercise, we have tried to write the script for it, and then on the basis of that, incorporating all these elements and following the format, we have tried to generate a script for our own. In the 5th class, we have talked about planning and publishing a project, at the same time writing grant applications. So we have learned some tips about planning a project, and we have learned in detail about what elements should be included in a grant application, what are some of the key aspects that we need to consider and keep in mind whenever we are writing grant application. We have also tried to learn about the perspective or the mindset grant makers have, and how that's going to be incorporated in our own grant application, and how it can strengthen our own grant application. And for as an exercise, we have tried to identify the key elements of a successful or an effective grant application from an existing successful grant application that we collected from online. And on the basis of that exercise, we have tried to create and generate our own grant application as a sample one. And as we apply for future grants opportunities, depending on what the grant makers would require and what the qualifications would require and how we fit into those criteria, we are going to tailor our own application in terms of that. So that is what we have done so far. Now, despite learning all these tips, it's very difficult to practice them in real world. So whenever you are going to embark on a journey of writing, it's definitely going to make you sweat. It's not going to be a very pleasing experience all the time. Sometimes it can be fun, sometimes it will be extremely boring, but what is more important is to have a proper plan. If you would just at the back of your mind keep thinking, then it will help you achieve clarity, and then it's going to reflect in your writing. So you already know all these key elements, but the key point is to incorporate it. Now that is the responsibility that lies with you, and how you do it, it's going to prove, and it's ultimately going to result in the success of your project or your own work, or wherever you want to, if you want to publish it on a media, or if you want to publish it on social media, that's with you. But if you just practice these simple tips, and if you just follow through some of the aspects that we have discussed throughout this module, then it's going to make you a better writer, as well as a visual journalist and a photographer. If you have further questions or queries, you can always reach out to me at this email. And if you need to know more about writing, or if you need more tips, then I would be available. So just don't hesitate and just send me an email. And Pathshala will have an additional premium content in which, if you require a one-to-one session, anyone would be able to avail that premium content through the required process, and by completing those processes you would always be able to do that. So that's also something that you might consider if you want to improve your writing as in terms of visual journalism. So that was all for this module titled Writing for Visual Journalism. I hope it helps you write better in your professional and personal life. Until I see you next time, thank you for your patience.